You've said the frequency and the nature of the attacks on you have increased.
Oh yeah, particularly through the deputy bailiff. I mean, his sort of attitude has been very interesting.
The deputy bailiff,
William Ballash, yeah, sort of attacks on me in court and in judgments. Got worse after when was it? January last year, I think, was that we did this thing. You know, there was an obvious correlation there.
January last year, so it was
through the disciplinary process for the officers
on the Curtis Warren car buggy.
Yeah.
So the attacks have increased since you represented those two cops.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, if ever there was a malicious prosecution of somebody, that was it. I mean, they weren't responsible for any infringement of anything. That was all done further up the food chain.
I do recall that because I actually published the Barton report.
Yes, I don't know how that leaked because that was embargoed, but these things do.
These things do, and mainly to bloggers, I might add, but
not through me, I might add.
No. Now, in that, I seem to recall reading. It's been a while since I've read it, but Mr. Barton, the chief officer of the Durham Police, went out of his way to thank you for actually representing these police, because I can't remember the exact words.
I can't remember the words, but I don't think it was quite as robust in his thanks as that. But he did say that you know,
that he couldn't find.
Got on with it with some gusto, I think is a fair way of putting it. Yeah.
But it was difficult to find other lawyers that would go against the establishment, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because what you were exposing was failures by the Attorney General, Crown Advocate Jowett, Solicitor General. They were the ones who were culpable, not the officers. And then you get this, who do you blame off the event to deflect? And the funniest thing in that prosecution was we never, of the officers, we couldn't find out who the complainant was. Because you had this sort of, the President Attorney General, not me,
the Attorney General said it wasn't him.
And then the second
Deputy Chief Officer of the police,
who said it was him, said it wasn't him. So it's very unsatisfactory.
With that Curtis Warren car bugging case, if I remember, it was the Jersey establishment, for want of a better word, who asked for this investigation, and a criminal investigation, if I remember, that they were subject to, these police, including. But they asked for this investigation. But am I right in remembering that the Attorney General and basically the establishment didn't cooperate with it?
Yep.
I mean, how does that work? I mean, how does this look? This has always been. How do you think these sort of behaviours and actions of our Jersey judiciary? Surely you must talk to people in your profession on the mainland, for instance.
Yes.
How do they view all this?
Horror, amusement, I mean, a sort of mixture of emotions, including disbelief. I mean, the ideal position for us as a jurisdiction would be where there was real respect and real approbation. And if you actually look behind the veneer and the press coverage, I'm afraid it isn't there, not in my profession. And that's not something that sort of suddenly occurred. I mean, I would say the last 10, 15, I think we've been on the slide, really. And I think that sort of mirrors the local profession's own view, which is something something ought to give. Now, they're not all going to come up tomorrow, and I think very few people are going to come up tomorrow and say, well, this is, Philip's right. But the reality is that behind closed doors, there's deep concern. And it's not just locally, and it's very, what's the word for it? I mean, it's embarrassing when highly ranking lawyers come over from England and they just don't know what to make of it. And it comes across in all sorts of different ways, different cases.
I was talking.
I mean, it's not good for the island. And so what you've got is it is a sort of pretense that everything is wonderful and a lot of sort of mutual camaraderie and backslapping, you know, within the circles. And it's sort of emperor has no clothes operation, really.
Well, because I was talking to a lawyer not so long ago, you know, off the record, if you like, and this lawyer was explaining to me that they just can't make sense of a lot of rulings and judgments that are coming out in the courts nowadays. Have you witnessed that, where you're just scratching your head and saying, well, how the hell do they come up with that?
I think it's a bit worse than that, because when you get a judgment comes out and you want to know what happened, what really happened, you don't read the judgment, you phone up somebody who was involved. And that's you know, that's an indictment, if you like. You know, taking things at face value.
You just can't believe what's in the judgment, basically. Is that what you're saying?
I think you tend to start. You think about how true and right it is, and whether that's the whole story and the real story. Yeah. Is it the truth and the whole of the truth?
Well, there shouldn't be any doubt, really, though, should there?
No.
And there is.
Yes.
Now, it's we touched on it a little bit earlier. You know, we've had the likes of, say, Graham Power, Lenny Harper, Stuart Sivray, Pitmans. Anybody who's talked out against, more so in particular, the child abuse that was allowed to thrive in Jersey for decades, they've been knocked off one by one.
Yes.
Are you next?
I think not.
But don't you think you're a target? I mean,
yeah, I'm definitely going to have another go, and I'll have another go with taxpayers' money. They'll find something. That's how it works. But you know, I mean,
you're not going to give up. You're going to.
I've survived a long time. So,
just to finish on Advocate Sinel, who holds the power in Jersey? We're a supposed democracy in Jersey, a supposed democracy. You know that.
I mean, suppose it's quite a good word, because I mean, well, democracy is generally sort of debatable. But who holds the power?
Who holds the power? Who runs Jersey? Who is the real power in Jersey? Is it our supposedly democratic elected assembly and our politicians, or I would put it that it is actually, well, should I be so blunt? It's the Balash brothers and their judiciary. What would you say to that?
Well, it depends on power in relation to what's. I mean, I think there's a real resonance with with what you're saying there. There are cliques over here. There are definitely cliques over here. There's definitely a sort of pro-establishment clique, and then there are bits of it that fall out with each other and all the rest of it.
Are we talking politically now, in the political?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that it's very difficult. You know, I'm a lawyer. I really don't do politics. You know, no, I don't think I could cope with looking at that as well as everything else. You know, it'd be very difficult. But yes, I mean, I don't know in what context you're asking me. I mean, it's quite obvious that we don't have functioning democracy, and that's very obvious. Democracies everywhere have problems. There are all sorts of problems with democracies, but it's better than nothing, as it were.
I suppose what I'm.
But then you've got the differences over here, which is the. If you look at Jersey's society, there's a lot of money for a small area, and that distorts things. Then you've got a lot of major issues being dealt with that a nation would wrestle with, being dealt with by a very small gene pool and a very small number of people. I mean, so that's different. Then you don't have a critical press over here. I think the blogs do what they can, as it were, but the mainstream press is still very much identified with, well, this is Jersey Inc. If we criticise it, it's bad for everybody. Whereas the reality is that some healthy criticism and some movement would show a much better front to the rest of the world, because people realise, okay, well, there is dissent, there's movement, there's debate. I think people would actually feel safer putting their money here if that was more of the case. So there's an absence of insightful media criticism at mainstream level, a lot of money, and then you've got the fact that small size, absence of movement through of people, And then you've got the fact that you've got the absence of separation of powers. Now that, I think, is the beginning part for the island when it starts to come up to speed, because it is no joke when you say that Jersey's constitution is backward to that of Sark.
Yeah.
If you look at it on any basic analysis, you can't miss it.
On your Carswell review, on your Carswell submission, there it is, it's in black and white.
Well, yeah, and that's just my view, but I mean, I think that, you know, we're on entitled to views. There are some bits of fundamental analysis that are a bit difficult to miss.
But I suppose where my question was heading towards was that, you know, I'm thinking of the likes of the Stuart Sivray court cases, imprisonment, you know, the what many people believe, the illegal suspension of Graham Power, the legitimate chief of police. Yeah. You know, anybody who's spoken out basically gets dealt with by the judiciary. You know,
Yes.
you know, the way I view it is that the power is actually in your judiciary, because the minute you get too powerful or too uncomfortable, you get sorted out by the judiciary over here. So
I think that's a perfectly fair analysis.
Would you say, you know, would you agree that the judiciary...
Isn't it strange that opponents of the regime, or those who think that it should be reformed, or people who simply in the wrong time at the wrong place and might finger somebody else or in some way, lose? You know, it keeps happening. You know, and you know, it's all explainable as per incident, just about. But when we start to run the numbers together, it's a picture.
That's right. And
it's sort of Singaporeish.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. That's. I think that's a great note to end on. I want to thank you, Advocate Sinel, for the in-depth interview here. No doubt, I'm hoping we could get an interview at another time, because I'm quite sure we haven't heard the last of you yet.
Well, rumours of my death have been rather exaggerated.